All right, well, it's exciting. I'm excited to be here. I did graduate from Utah Valley back in 2006. This was one of my favorite classes. I was an entrepreneur. I loved learning from successful people or people that are aspiring to be successful. And so I'm originally from Chicago, land area. I came out west because I wanted to play basketball. And I played basketball for Utah Valley in the 99-2000 team. I was riddled with injury, so my career was very short-lived. Also, I'm very short. Realized I wasn't going to go anywhere. So after a bunch of injuries, I said, look, basketball's done. I'm going to just get to work. And quickly realized that I love doing my own thing. And it was my junior year here at Utah Valley where I created my first multi-million-dollar company. And I wanted to drop out. I did not want to continue to attend school, but it was my wife. She's like, you need to finish. And I'm so glad she told me that because I needed that degree later on. Because being an entrepreneur does not mean you're going to be successful all the time. It means you're going to fail a lot. And falling back on that degree actually helped me immensely. So that's really where my story began. The company that I created was called Wholesale Match back when I was a junior here. And I matched wholesalers with people that wanted to sell products online. And that's all it was. I organized information in a way where people wanted to purchase that and have a subscription. And it grew very fast. And that's where this story starts. That's me 10 years ago. I was on a boat in Hawaii, which you just got back from. And I'm going to get personal. This is a true story. In 2011, I was sued by the FTC for $150 million. I had 4 kids, all under the age of 5 at the time. And all my assets were frozen. You're probably wondering, what the hell did you do? I was not a drug dealer. It was nothing criminal. And what I had, it goes back to that wholesale match company, it was the industry I was in. The FTC has a hard time with that business opportunity space because there's a lot of bad people in it. There's a lot of people that take advantage of people. And I created products in that space. And even though I was trying to do a good thing, it still didn't matter. Because there was an organization that I partnered with down in Las Vegas that was a big sales engine. And they were always sending me leads and business. And in fact, they owned a little fraction of my company at the time. And that's what brought me into this whole mess. Even though from this company down in Las Vegas, I only made a couple $1 million from my company, I was sued for $150 million. I was like, how can that be? And I learned through the process that it was something called common enterprise. This organization was tied to a lot of companies, and through the course of a certain amount of years, they made $150 million. And so through common enterprise, because I fulfilled products in that industry, they slapped me with that big, huge lawsuit. Now that was tough. So that was 2011 that happened. 2010, I made my first $1 million, and I had to report that to the IRS. I finally made it. I was super excited about it. And my family and we said, we're going to go out to Hawaii, and we're going to get this house, and we're going to stay there for a couple weeks. And that's what we did. That's my wife, and 2 of my kids came on a catamaran with me up the Nepali coastline. And just as I set sail, I get a phone call from my business partner, Jim. And he says, hey, Steve, we have the FTC here, and they're raiding our companies, and they have SWAT team members. And they're lining up our employees against the wall. I'm like, okay. He's like, I think things will be fine. I'll call you back. So I hang up. I'm like, all right, just keep me posted. I didn't tell my wife, and because I wanted her to have a good time. And I wasn't concerned at all, because I'm like, there's nothing wrong we were doing. An hour later, I get another phone call, and he says, hey, can you run to the bank? Because all my assets are frozen. I'm like, I'm on a boat. I can't go to the bank right now. He's like, I know you're on vacation. You need some money to get home. So 8 hours later, that's when I got off the boat, finally told my wife, and I said, something really weird is happening at work, and I don't know what, but we need to go to an ATM machine. And I was able to get $500 out, which was good. And then a few hours later, I logged into my bank account, and this is what it looked like. I had a negative $10 million lien against what I had in my bank, which means I had $0. I was so confused. This was such a hard thing to kind of go through. Now, I paint this story because this is the beginning of when Awardco was founded in these tough situations. Okay? Now, what ended up happening, just because, kind of got you into this story a little bit, I ended up settling with the FTC. It was a civil case, and it took me 3 years to settle. I was so mad. I was wanting to fight, but they took all my assets, and it was very hard to fight when you have nothing. And so I had a distinct impression just to walk away. Everything's going to be fine. So after 3 years of trying to figure out a way through this, I ended up settling for a cool $130 million. Now, what that means is that they also had in the settlement that I can't get back into that industry. I can't create products for it. I'm banned for life. And if I ever get back into it, that $130 million lawsuit comes back. It's crazy. But I'm like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to chalk this up as a learning experience. That's number one. I had to settle.
How much did you settle for? I misheard.
$130 million. But I did not have that. So it's a federal judgment. So what happened is they took all my liquid assets, and so they took everything. And I had to go into bankruptcy. Now, if I were to fight this, since this was a civil case, a federal judgment is not forgiven in a bankruptcy. So think about that. It's like, okay, is the risk worth it? No. Even though I was 99%, or I was 100% confident that the FTC overreached their bounds and they dragged me into it. But it wasn't worth the fight. So I walked away. Second, I had to go get a job now. I'm an entrepreneur. That's hard, especially being successful prior. And I got a job at Qualtrics making $60,000. Nowhere near what I needed to make ends meet. But I got a job. And then I had to file for bankruptcy to kind of start over. So, lesson number one, it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. That's from Zig Ziglar. That is what got me through. Now, you can go through trials, and a lot of people are negative through those failures. And that's why they're not a good entrepreneur. They don't have a good attitude while failing. I was so jazzed and motivated. I was so fueled, too, to be successful after this experience. I couldn't wait to get on to my next venture. Lesson number two, innovation and opportunity are tied to risk. This is Awardco. This is the fastest growing company in Utah, one of the fastest growing companies in the country. This was my first logo. You can tell the state I was in. I needed to be happy. I said to my wife, can you create this logo with a happy face and the O? And this is what I got. And I was like, great. Another lesson here is you don't have to have it perfect to begin. This was 4 weeks after things hit the fan. I was already on to Awardco. Now with Awardco, I was so jazzed about it that I even created a jingle. And this is it. Family friend of mine created jingles. I was in the dumps. I said, give me a country song about Awardco. And it's kind of like a country song I just gave you, right? Sad story. And this, so I was so excited about this opportunity because I knew that there was this space that was a century old that so many organizations do and recognize their employees that they just have this archaic way about going about it. So being from Utah Valley in the computer science department, majoring in information technology, I said, there is a better way to recognize employees, a more modern way. And I knew this space so well because of my father. He is an employee recognition consultant for great companies like Jostens. You may have heard of Jostens before. He specializes in corporate rings, and he did rings for corporations like McDonald's. This is an event he was at, and he has over 600 jewelry manufacturing, 600 pieces custom to McDonald's. They love their M. And we're talking, there's Big Mac rings with ruby red tomatoes, really cool stuff. He also did the Chicago Bulls 6 championship rings. So growing up in that area in Chicago, I was a junior when Michael Jordan was winning all those championships. I know it's not very popular here, but I was a huge NBA fan, and I was a fan of my dad, and I said, wow, I want to do what you do. I've always aspired to be like him. And he's the reason why I'm in this space. But I knew the younger generation didn't care about rings and plaques. Think about it. You can't wait to put that president's ring on. No one cares about that. Here, the younger generation. It's cool. There's a place for it. And there's times that we still do that. But the younger generation wants something more. And it was the idea of that Amazon-like experience. They want that, people want choice. They want things sent to them fast. That's what we're getting used to this Amazon era. And I said, wouldn't it be great to modernize employee recognition and create that Amazon-like experience for employee recognition? Choice, no markups, free shipping, global. And so that was a simple idea. And I'm a naive entrepreneur. And I use that to my advantage. Because I'm like, we're going to go after Amazon. We're going to partner with them. And again, think about it. I just lost everything. And I'm like, let's go. That's the kind of attitude that you need to be a successful entrepreneur. So that's what we did. I brought on my cousin Mike Sonnenburg. We grew up in Chicago. I call him the Da Vinci of code. He is an unbelievable back-end engineer. He graduated from BYU. I went Utah Valley. And we partnered up, and I needed him because I had this vision of integrating with Amazon, rebuilding Amazon into like a point system. And that's what you see here. We were able to take hundreds of millions of items, reskin it inside of a Wardco, and we were able to put a point system on it. Rule number 1 from Amazon, don't ever mark anything up. So that was number 1. We're not going to mark up anything. So now we have this platform where employees can log in and buy things from Amazon rather than just getting like a ring or a plaque or things like that. We gave them choice. You can recognize in here. So managers can go in here and hit recognize and give points to people. And they can have budgets. So it's this Amazon-like way of rewards and recognition. Now the problem was Amazon did not like this. Another risk, another hurdle. I'm like, okay, trust me. I know my dad. He's in this space. There's a better way to do it. And so they told us no. In fact, when I reached out to someone. I didn't know if it was the right person, but they're like, if you're interested in doing business with Amazon, send the proposal to this address in Texas. And I was like, okay, Amazon is not in Texas, so I'm not going to do that. So I didn't do that. So what I ended up doing is I just went forward. I said, you know what? I'm right. So many times as an entrepreneur, you ask opinions and people tell you things, and you listen. You got to trust here. Okay, and I said, no, Amazon does not get this yet. And so we still went forward, and what would happen is we started signing up customers, and then employees, or our customers would buy items, and then I would package it in a form of a ticket. And then my wife would go onto an Amazon.com and send it to the employee. So we kept doing that. So we started signing up accounts, and we'd create Amazon.com accounts for them. It was so messy. In fact, we started growing so fast, we started shutting down Amazon accounts because you can't process $100,000 in a month on an Amazon.com account because Amazon will say, wait a minute, this looks weird, and they'll block it. So we were shutting down accounts all the time, so it was this unstable path forward. That was in 2011. Again, that's at the lowest point. I quickly created a Wardco, and from 2011 to 2016, it was like that, and it was hard. It wasn't until 2016 where I got a call from Amazon, and that's Kate in the middle from Amazon, She's one of our main contacts at the beginning stages of this relationship, and Judd, my VP of sales. That's inside that Amazon sphere. If you've ever been to Seattle, I got in. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but it's pretty cool. You have to have a special badge to get in. When I got in there, I'm like, I'm in. Now, I had an opportunity to present a award code to a bunch of executives, and I did not know this, but Amazon Business was just founded in 2015, okay? Now, keep in mind, there's Amazon and there's Amazon Business. Now, so now we had something here. They said Amazon Business is all about, it's the Amazon-like experience, but for business. And I started looking at that business model and I said, AwardCo fits in there. It's everything you love about Amazon for business and employees. AwardCo is the employees part. And so we thought big. Amazon's values, one of their big values that they love over there is think big. And so I presented AwardCo. I said, look, this is a $100 billion space. Think about every organization. Everyone incentivizes and recognizes at their company. There's a lot of research done. In the US alone, it's over 100 billion. I said AwardCo is designed to capture, to organize the world's incentive spend through technology. And I showed them, I laid out the big picture, and they're like, okay, we like this. We love this. We like what you're doing. We're going to get behind it. So I established a partnership, AwardCo, we updated our logo, and Amazon Business. We established a partnership to do what they did in the consumer space, take over half of e-commerce. I want to take over half of the world's incentive spend. And so they created some additional technologies that allowed us to automate the fulfillment process. So now when someone goes in there and gets that Amazon Echo, it's now going to Amazon's fulfillment house real time. I don't even have to touch it. So now we're finally, this is 2016, not too long ago, we're ready to scale. We continue to innovate with their engineers. We now integrate with all the warehouses around the world. So if you live in Japan, you're seeing the Amazon products that are closest to you, and you're eliminating customs and even shipping in many cases. If you live in France, you're seeing that warehouse. Italy, Spain, India, all over that you see on that map. And so we're changing and disrupting an industry. Now, you have to innovate with your customers. And so we mentioned some of the customers we work with. We work with some of the biggest companies in the world. And I constantly am at the table innovating with them. They are leading the product. That's why I know I'm on the right path. It's not me visualizing. I had the initial idea, but now to know you're on the right path, you have to innovate with your customers. That's true customer obsession. So one of the biggest financial institutions in the world, we created something called recognition programs. They have hundreds of thousands of employees in over 50 countries. And they said, we want to use AwardCo. We see it as a way to organize our incentive spend on one platform to give us some powerful analytics and data. But we have employees all over the world. AwardCo, when it was first built, it was kind of program agnostic. You kind of say, I want to recognize John, here's why, give him some points. It was that simple. But how do you do it on such a large scale? So we created something called recognition programs, where you can actually create a program inside of AwardCo, and then you can say, well, this group of employees in this part of the world, and that equals this metadata, it could be, in this department, is part of this program, and they can award this much. And this program, or this part of the organization, can reward this monetary amount. And so you can actually create these mini programs and put it all on one application. And then based on who you are in the world, when you log in, it'll only bring up the program that's relevant to you. So it's awesome to be able to innovate with customers to give us that idea to say, okay, I see the problem we're trying to solve. So we created these recognition programs. And then we took it a step further and we created something called the Smart Award Network, because then we had people say, well, did you know that a service anniversary program, it actually could be tax-free if it's a qualified IRS plan? That every 5 years, 10 years, every 5 years, you can actually award a certain amount as long as it's under like $1,400, and then you don't have to tax the employee. But it has to be a tangible product. And so we're like, oh, okay. So we'll create that service anniversary program, and then if you award points out of that program, then what will happen is we'll program those points to only work inside Amazon. You can't get gift cards because Awardco actually has gift cards. We have Priceline hotels. We have all sorts of options on our platform. So then you have the Smart Award Network, and then people are saying, oh, I have a wellness program, and I want to recognize people based on being healthy, going to the doctor, getting a physical, but I want them to actually get wellness products. So you can actually create mini Amazon catalogs inside of Awardco of 30 or 40 items, whatever you want, and they can be health items. Same thing with swag. People are saying, oh, I want to get swag to my employees, an onboarding program. But when I give points, I don't want them getting something on Amazon. I want them to get something on the swag store. So those are what we're solving. And the industry was ready for something like that. And that's why Awardco is growing very fast. Okay, so you have to take risks, okay, and they have to be, and if you're not taking risks, if you're comfortable right now, you're not doing anything. You're not taking risks. You have to get uncomfortable. Think about what I had to do there. I had to start Awardco in the hardest time. Oh, and one thing to mention in that time period, before I get onto this slide, Awardco, that domain name, if you guys remember, I lost everything. And after about a month later, the FTC gave me about $20,000 to live on for the next 6 months, which is nowhere near what I needed. But I took $5,000 of that $20,000 and I bought the domain name awardco.com because I believed in it. I don't know how my wife agreed to that. That's just who I am. And I just believed in it. As an entrepreneur, you have to have the passion. Yes? Oh, 5 minutes. All right, sounds good. All right, let's move on. Be stubborn on your vision, but flexible on how you get there. Jeff Bezos said this. Okay, what does that mean? Vision. For me, I wanted to create that Amazon-like experience for the employee recognition space. I had to be flexible how I got there. Number one, I had to go work at Qualtrics. I did not know how to sell to large enterprise organizations. I got the knowledge to know how to do that. That was vital to my success. Number two, Awardco at first was not that Amazon vision at first. I wanted to create that Amazon-like experience from a customer side and just an incredible organization, but I didn't know how I was going to get all those products and actually offer that, kind of rebuild Amazon into a points program. So at first, Awardco was a corporate jewelry platform where I had jewelry on it. That's what my dad did, okay? It wasn't going anywhere. And then I went into a swag. I started doing embroidery type items. This is all between 2011 and 2016. Then I got into wholesale plaques. I started getting these suppliers, and I said, I get incredible deals off these wholesalers. I love Costco. Why don't I create this membership where people can pay me like $500 a year, and then I can actually give everyone a wholesale plaque, so saving them money. You see the little bits of Amazon in there? Still was just not good. That wasn't right. I had to be flexible until I got to the Amazon part where my cousin joined me with the Awardco vision and model. And then that was hard, kind of went through that story, and then it was Amazon Business. So again, this is important because this is why most people fail at being an entrepreneur. You have to be stubborn on your vision. I believed that this archaic industry was unbelievable and it was ready for disruption with new technologies. I knew it. And I had to be flexible on how I get there. You're going to fail all the time. All the time. But it's your attitude that determines whether you continue. So many people aren't successful because their attitude is not good and they don't look at that opportunity as a place to learn. Because if you're not failing, you're not learning. Okay? Now, right now, we have 2.3 million users in the world. We're in 141 countries. We had 3.7 million recognitions last year. Every 8 seconds on our platform, someone is being recognized. And every about 10 seconds right now, someone's redeeming on our platform. Awardco has created the marketplace of all marketplaces to manage the world's incentive spend. That's how you have to think. You got to think big. Lesson number 4. Value-driven recognition is an essential part of a balanced, high-performing workplace. We're growing very fast at Awardco. Last year I had 48 employees. Right now I have 190. We're growing very fast. In order to grow fast, it's so important that your organization is purpose-driven. Now these are great brands that I put up here. Why do you exist? You have to ask that as you start your company or you work for a company. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Airbnb, we exist to encourage exploration by championing non-traditional lodging options to travelers. Tesla, we exist to change the planet by pioneering innovation in transportation. We're still trying to identify why we exist. We're trying to get into it, right? Right now, we want to manage the world's incentive spent. But you have to have a purpose, a vision. And in order to support that, purpose is fostered within that purpose is fostered within that value life cycle that you see up here right now. Now, so not only will you have to have a purpose, but you need to have a set of values for your organization. And those values have to be more than just something on a wall. They have to support that overarching purpose that's like almost unattainable. Okay? Now, you have to first communicate what those values are. And then you have to demonstrate them at your work. And those could be like customer obsession. That's a huge value that is really coined by Jeff Bezos and Amazon. That is extremely important that a lot of people have adopted. So, what are you doing in your organization to demonstrate customer obsession? And then who's seeing it? And do they have the ability to recognize you with a meaningful, it could be non-monetary, but as long as it's a thoughtful recognition, or it could be monetary. But it's simple as this: demonstrate, recognize, reward. That's the value cycle, okay? Now, one of the things that we do here at AwardCo is we have these values that support what we want to do, okay? Probably the most important one is that we're being recognized, or people are recognizing themselves the most at our organization, is delight the customer. Not just customer satisfaction, delight them, innovate with them, partner with them. And so AwardCo, part of our technology is we created a way for you to simply recognize your peers based on your values. And so when someone does something meaningful, you can say, share the story, tag it with a value. Just as we tag images and organize images in our life, you can tag these values. And so for leaders in your organization, as the CEO, I don't know all my employees now. That's really hard. I used to know everyone. But I can go into our feed, and I can see all the stories about how we're delighting the customer. That's important. Now, as an organization that's growing very fast, that is giving, everyone being engaged and recognizing each other is helping drive AwardCo to be a great place to work. And successful companies are those that recognize based on their values. It's much more than when you go into a company and say, here's our values, welcome to the company, and then they never talk about it again. Recognizing based on values needs to be an everyday thing. So then what did we do? We took our technology and we integrated with communication apps, like I know we're on Teams right now, and Slack. So then when you're recognizing each other or communicating, right in your flow, you can quickly do a /recognize, tag a value. We have all our components built into these communication apps so you can recognize. And so when we did this, when we integrated our solutions into communication apps, our recognitions increased by over 400%. Now, we track it all the time. There's 3 goals I have at AwardCo. We have to be united, and they are, 1, it is to protect revenue. Number 2, generate new revenue. And 3, recognize often and communicate. Those are 3 things I tell my employees all the time. We are so aligned on that, and everything that they do rolls up to that. And so these are dashboards that we have in our office, so people know we've had 1,512 recognitions this year. In January, February, you can kind of see where we're at. The yellow is last year. Interesting last year, right? We all got sent home. Look at this. The spike went up. It was so important to, as people are home and people are isolated and people are having anxiety, they're like, this is fun at first, but this is going on too long. I challenged my team, let's recognize often, let's recognize more, and it really helped our culture. And so you can see that kind of spike. But we look at this often. That's important to us. But if you are an organization that recognizes often, it's oftentimes overlooked, then you're an organization that can grow and scale successfully. I've seen it over and over. We drink our own juice. It's so important as an organization to have this mindset. Now, just to close with this statement, this is something that is important to me. Now I'm just going to read this out loud. Something that we believe here at Awardco, and we're trying to live the values. We're trying to really be big and do better in the community. And this is kind of our memoir we say all the time at our organization. And so I didn't put it all up here, so I'm going to read some of it, and then some of it will be here. But employee recognition has become a buzzword, overused by well-meaning executives looking to boost productivity and dangling carrots in front of their human capital. Traditional employee recognition has become a magic wand to wave in hopes that it will cure a bad cause of turnoveritis. While traditional employee recognition has some issues, the promise of recognizing others remains true. Humans are happiest when we are truly valued. We feel valued when our contributions are recognized. Awardco is for those who recognize. Recognize the good in each human being and that at times we fall short. Recognize that limitless value is within each of us, ready to be realized. Recognize how far we've come and that we still have a long way to go. Recognize that those who feel value give far more than they receive. It's a beautiful cycle, and Awardco is at the center. So I'm wearing my Recognize shirt today because that's something we believe. We believe everyone should be recognized. And we also recognize that we're not perfect. We have so much to learn. And so that's something that we believe and instill within our employees, and people just love rallying around that. So yes, we're growing very fast, but having something like that you can all anchor in is very important for an organization. So think about, as you get into your next life, the next chapter in your life, of what do you want to accomplish. Now, I shared some lessons. It's hard to be an entrepreneur. You're going to fail, but you want to have a good attitude as you fail. It's the best time to learn, and have that optimistic attitude as you go forward. Okay, and take risks, and swing harder. That's so important. So many times people are just doing little baby swings. They're not. If you truly want to make an impact in the world, you got to risk. But make sure you're smart at taking those risks. You'll notice in my journey, I didn't just go all in and say, I'm going to go raise a ton of money and that's what I wanted to do. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I got a job at Qualtrics. I paid my bills. I supported my family. And so I minimized that risk. I was smart at taking risks. And then as you continue to grow, have a culture of recognition. It'll serve you well. But that's it. That's my presentation for today. And I'll open up for any questions that people have.
One from the Teams group. They're looking to start a company,
Yep.
a startup, and they need to buy product. They found a website that will sell wholesale product to them, but they don't know if their products are reliable and good. How do you find that out?
Interesting. Well, first,
I want to repeat it for those who might not.
So an individual starting up a business and they found a wholesaler, but they don't know if those products are good. Well, number one, reviews online. Does that wholesaler currently work with other vendors, and how are the reviews? You have to talk to people that are using that company. That's a hard thing because there's a lot of people that say, how many people, I mean, you don't have to raise your hand, but how many times have we been burned by buying something from a bad vendor? Happens all the time. So reviews are important. If there are no reviews, you need to walk into that so cautiously. And so that's number one, reviews. Number two is if you can find references of people that have used that wholesaler, that's number two. And number three, you got to go to that warehouse and see what their operations are like. You have to spend a little money to get there. If you don't do those things, then there's no way I would ever do business with them. You have to do your due diligence, or you'll fail, and you'll learn. That'll be a lesson you learn. Yes?
Would this kind of platform work on like a personal level, like if with parents and their kids, like allowance kind of system?
One day. So we are founded on, one day, we're going to remove the word employee, right? And it's a platform to recognize or incentivize your kid for mowing the lawn. They can log in then and get something fun, whatever they want. So that's a great way to do it. So as of right now, no. But there's a lot of use cases where people are starting to use us. People are starting to use us now for like loyalty programs. We have a big casino that does a big loyalty program that spends a lot with their members, and they're just using us for redemptions. So that'd be the same thing. It's someone that wants to use Awardco just for redemptions, potentially. So in the future, good question. Yes?
What is Awardco's payment platform? Do they pay a monthly subscription, or how does that work?
Yeah, good question. At first, we started there. We were a monthly subscription. That's what I knew. We've evolved. When I created Awardco, it was actually going to be for employees that are 500 and less. So that's why the subscription thing made a lot of sense. But when the word got out that you can use Amazon for your rewards and recognition, then I started getting the biggest companies in the world reaching out and saying, is this true? Can I use Amazon now? And so we became an enterprise platform overnight. And so now we have a license fee. It's a user count per head. And so we'll take an organization. We have minimums. But we work with organizations that literally have 10 employees all the way up to organizations that have hundreds of thousands. Awardco has actually taken that. We're not just an enterprise solution, we service the small businesses as well. And so we have packages that start at a couple $1,000s to begin, but they're annual licenses, and then they have to pay for their redemptions. So they not only pay us a subscription fee, but then they have to pay their redemptions as they happen. So one of the things that we do that's nice is whatever's not redeemed, we don't keep. So if your employees don't redeem something, we give that money back. Where some of our competitors, they keep that as a breakage. We don't have that model. So yeah, it's a subscription based on employee count now that's annual. Good question.
You chose to bootstrap versus go for funding.
Yeah.
In hindsight, did you like the decision? What's that mean for you now?
Yeah. That's harder. Right? So it kind of is hard too, because in order to be cool here in Silicon Slopes, you almost have to raise money. And so a lot of people don't know about Awardco because we chose to bootstrap. I'm so glad I did. It's all about that, because that forces me to make hard decisions. So I'm not frivolous with extra money and just wasting it. It forces me to make good business decisions. It's a lot harder, but it is why we're successful, is because we bootstrap and have that mentality. So early on, I didn't know much about raising money. I didn't understand the VC game. In fact, I did. There was a time I went out for about 2 months to start learning. I talked to a lot of VC companies, some of the biggest. And some wanted to give Awardco money. But I realized that was a full-time job, trying to raise money. And I wanted to get back to making money. See, to me, you're either raising money or making money. And I chose to make money. And because I knew if I were to make money and get good customers, then that day will happen. If I want to raise and I want to go public, I can't decide who's going to buy me. I can only decide if I'm going to go public. And so the bootstrapping mentality is so important. And it was just, the reason why I did it is because that's just all I knew. You can't spend more than you make. So it forces you to make hard decisions. And so after realizing how hard it is to raise money and how much time that took, I need to get back to work. And so it just turned me off. And so to this day, Awardco was founded on some angel money. You guys know I was at Qualtrics. There was an angel investor that said, look, leave Qualtrics, go at Awardco full-time, guarantee your salary for 2 years. Think about what I just went through. That was very hard for my wife to say, oh my gosh, here we go again. But it was 2 years worth I can bet on myself. And so I took angel money, and then I haven't gone the VC route at this point. A lot of people are shocked by that because of our growth and the numbers that we produce. I did bring on in 2020 of January, I did a private round with Ryan Smith, Alex Dunn, and Todd Peterson. And so it wasn't about the money though. It was more about the advisors, because I can get the money. I needed to have successful people that have done what I want to do on my team. And so that was a long way to answer your question, but bootstrapping is the way to go. It helps you make good decisions. Sure, I've taken some money along the way to help the growth, but not much. And so now I'm sitting with one of the fastest growing companies in all of Utah and in the country, and yet I maintain majority control. And so we're in a really good spot. And so I'm grateful for that, and it's those hard decisions. Good question. Any more questions?
Lifestyle always comes up.
Yeah.
How have you balanced your father, your children? You're also got a tiger by the tail in your company. How have you balanced some
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Yeah, balance is always hard. I've always been through my whole career an 8 to 5 guy, and then from 5 to 8 or 9, I'm home uninterrupted with my family. And then I'm back at it from 9 to midnight. I haven't been balanced. So who's taking the most sacrifice? My wife. And you have to have the right teammate. And she understands who I am. I involve her. You know, she's extremely intelligent. And so that's how I've done it. I'm not perfect at it, but that kind of schedule has worked. And I don't work like every night, you know, but I just had made sure I made time for my kids. And then I'm always constantly trying to make sure that I spend enough time with my wife. So it's really hard to do because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing right now. So I haven't figured it all out, but breaking it up in those areas has helped me kind of have structure to the chaos. Good question. Anything else? All right. Anything else online? We good? Is there another one?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
On one of your slides, you showed a quote by Jeff Bezos that just said to be stubborn on your vision.
Yeah.
How do you deal with criticism, and when, if ever, would you decide to pursue something else and stop?
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, the quote from Jeff Bezos, be stubborn on your vision and be flexible in how you get there. But how do you block out the noise? Because how many of you have ideas and you ask everyone around you? And how many people tell you, oh, that's not good, you know? So I don't listen. I like getting feedback, but in the end, I have operated on gut a lot. And so you just have to, you know when you know. And so when someone tells me something, I understand what they're saying, I process it, and I kind of put it into my vision, and does it make sense? Yes, then I'll tweak my vision a little bit. If not, I kick it out. Okay, so it's just a process you have to go through, and you have to trust your gut. You can't be one that just listens and is tossed with every direction, like, oh, they said this, oh no, and you lose confidence. You have to be so confident in what you do. And in order to be confident, you have to be okay to fail and accept failure. So now you bring up the next question, how do you know when to stop and pivot? Okay. Again, it's just a feel thing. It's so important that you don't just keep going if something's wrong. You have to talk to the customers. You have to be close to them. And so that's, to me, that's my compass. And so when I go forward on a vision or an idea, I quickly get some customers. My early customers were hardly paying me anything, but the knowledge was so valuable. And so I would just learn from them. And when something wasn't working, for example, I was so against creating a social feed on Awardco where people can like and comment because I didn't want to be a popularity contest. But as I kept talking to customers, they're like, no, we want that. Then I was able to kind of pivot and move towards something like that. So just be really close to your customers will help you. So yeah, good question. But a lot of it's in you as an individual. You have to trust yourself.
Maybe a final question, if you could. Some of these students want jobs when they graduate. What makes a great worker for you? What do you look for when you're hiring someone?
Yeah, good question. So what do I look for? We've hired a lot of great people from Utah Valley. Our people that work at Awardco are young and hungry. And so we love looking for problem solvers, people that don't get caught up in, a lot of people nowadays come in and we're competing against other tech companies. They're like, well, how much equity am I going to get when I first start? And they start talking about all these things before they even begin. That's a turnoff. We love people when they come in and say, look, I'm ready. I believe in this, what your vision, what your company is doing. I want in. I'm going to make an impact. Just put me in. Put me in, coach. You know. So there's so many people that started at the very bottom that are some of our executives now. So it's that mentality is so important to me. So you have to be humble. And being humble is not coming in and saying, what's in it? What's it for me? You know. So that's one thing that I've seen that has turned us off. But it's just being a team player and being humble. That's what we look for. We also, in the hiring process, will ask you questions around like customers and what would you do in situations. And depending on how you respond, we kind of think We look at how you problem solve right on the interview. And if you problem solve appropriately that we feel, then we bring you on. So, so those are some things we look for. Anything else?
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.